All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. It is Sunday, July 27th, as you can see on your screen here. If you're ever curious as to where we're at, usually I'll put the date here in, well, the date's already in there in this live stream. A couple of corrections on yesterday's or Friday's show, I guess it was. Uh, Malcolm Jamal Warner was not the second death of the three. And thanks to those people who corrected me on that. Now, I wasn't connecting Warner to the show Malcolm in the Middle in any other way other than his birthday, which was 8/18, which has the one in the middle, 818. So that's why I said Malcolm in the Middle. You know, these decodes, they're not an exact thing, and a lot of it is open into interpretation. This is why I tell you guys, when you give your input in the comments and chat and stuff, there are really no wrong answers. Um, we've learned this through the nested reality. Sometimes there's multiple answers. Sometimes there's infinite answers. Almost, it seems like sometimes. We're just trying to feel our way in the dark with this stuff, with how the enemy wages war on our minds. Now, if we are to believe Epstein's niece, who has recently come out, she confirms that birthdays are specifically chosen for a long-term occult future purpose. Literally, they are given different birth certificates with different dates, specific dates that tie into the occult. So apparently we were on to something about that. Now, one more correction I need to make from Friday's show was that I assumed that South Park was left-leaning. And so thanks for the correction on that. Apparently they're not left-leaning. South Park often roasts both sides of the aisle. So I wanted to make those two corrections. And thanks to those of you who are polite about correcting, because that always helps, right? Now, lots happened so far going into the weekend connected to the Epstein case. We're going to get into that today. We're going to get caught up on everything that's going on. We've got Ghislaine Maxwell walking around without handcuffs, around armed men carrying boxes. And then after we get caught up on that, a couple of you asked me to look at the film called The Assessment. So I will be looking at The Assessment today. It's not going to be a long, drawn-out decode, but I captured a few, clips that I want to share with you guys. But let's get started with Ghislaine Maxwell and this Department of Justice mysterious box, they say. Now, the first thing I thought of was, why is this woman walking around in here with a box? Like, shouldn't she be in handcuffs? Like, this is crazy, you guys. Now, this suggests that most of this is probably a lie. Look, they've got her walking with this box. There's no leg cuffs. There's no handcuffs. Now, apparently, obviously, these two men are likely armed, right? So you never, I don't care if it's a minimum security penitentiary, because if it's minimum security, that means people don't have guns, right? Now, my father was a correctional officer, and he made it up pretty high in the ranks in California. He worked at a place called DVI in Tracy, Dual Vocational Institution or something like that. And then my dad finished his career at San Quentin Penitentiary. And yes, my father had conversations with Charles Manson when he was alive. Now, when I was in grade school, I would go see my father behind the wire, as they say, in San Quentin Penitentiary in the summer. There was a small residential community that was literally inside of the wire of the penitentiary. There were guard gates on both ends going in and coming out. And any time that we left the grounds or entered, the car was stopped and searched. They popped the trunk open. I think they had a mirror that they used to look under the car as well. And any time that any convicted felon is outside of their cell, they always place cuffs on them, because they could take an officer's weapon or a guard's weapon away from them. They can grab guns. Now, even though they tell us that Ghislaine Maxwell was not Mossad, do they really know if she was Mossad or not? Would they really let her walk around armed men? Well, we've all seen the movies, right? Like Salt, where these female assassins, highly trained to disarm people from their guns. Something is not right here. Now, of course, she's older now, but this is not standard procedure. Is this guy in the trunk? What's going on here? What the heck? This guy's got... Oh, no, he's just up against the car. Looked like he had one leg in the trunk, didn't it? So let's read this, see what's going on here. The heck? Oh, let's play this here. Let's see what's going on.
Trump's deputy attorney general. And you can see her there. Actually, if you look closely, she's carrying a box of material. Now, Maxwell's attorney says she was forthcoming with every question that Trump's team threw at her today.
Ms. Maxwell answered every single question.
Now, apparently, she has given up. Now, the breaking news is that she's given up hundreds of names. But mysteriously, none of these names seems to be Trump's name, at least for now. And as we said, they are now coming clean about this. When we first started talking about this, they said, or we said, that they were likely, this was a setup for a pardon. And now this is mainstream news. They're literally saying this is a setup for a pardon for her. And they'll probably give us a few more arrests, wipe the slate clean for Trump, and move on. And likely at the end of his presidency, he'll just pardon her. You guys, this is corruption all the way to the top. And you know what? They don't care about what we think anymore, do they? Because the surveillance police state run by artificial intelligence is now up and running. They'll simply pick off enemies of the state, anyone that disagrees with them, that has any kind of reach or potential. They will then become a political enemy. They will then go and dig into your past, try to ruin your life, surveil you, sue you. This is the precedent that Trump has set. And here we are. They don't care what we think anymore. They used to care, but not anymore. Now, they've been practicing on the illegals, the detention centers, and the FEMA camps, which are basically the detention centers. And the American people have approved all this. Why? To root out the illegals is what they've been told, but it's a big straw man. It's a big Trojan horse. And mark my words, it's only a matter of time before enemies of the state end up in these facilities. They might not even tell us about it. It might be a black site. They might just turn some of these into black sites and just detain anybody indefinitely. Anyway, so here's Trump. He got caught red-handed again, lying. So much for the most transparent president in history. You remember the drawing, the salacious drawing that we still haven't seen yet? He said, I've never drawn anything in my life. Well, apparently, he publicly signed up to be in this birthday book. So the odds are he did, in fact, submit the drawing. Let's read this here. Donald Trump's efforts to distance himself from the stain are crumbling, as new reporting offers compelling evidence of birthday book containing messages to the offender. President maintains that a letter he was reported to have written to Epstein for the 50th birthday is fake, but new photos on Thursday suggest the birthday book exists, adding to evidence that he wrote a note. Trump was on a contributor list for the 2003 book. So if he's on the contributor list, he likely did the drawing, is what the case that they're making here. Was on the contributor list for the 2003 book that included the names of dozens of Epstein acquaintances, according to the reports in two newspapers on Thursday. According to the source who spoke to the Journal, Epstein's accomplice and former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, sought help from a number of people, including assistants, to put together the album. A handwritten letter from Maxwell that introduced the book was highlighted in the Times piece. The letter says the idea behind the book was simply to gather stories and old photographs, to jog your memory about places, people, and different events. Here's that written letter. So, wow, another element of this connecting him to the very book that he denies he wrote a picture for. Now, here we have a resurfaced clip of the stain. Trigger alert. Some people might not want to hear this or see this.
Relationship with Donald Trump. Ever had a personal relationship with Donald Trump?
What do you mean by personal relationships?
Have you socialized with him?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18?
Though I'd like to answer that question, at least today, I'm going to have to assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights, sir.
So, what was Epstein so afraid of? Why would he plead the 5th when asked a direct question? I mean, he could have even clarified this. He could have been like, oh, yeah, of course, we were around the kids sometimes. We went out on a barbecue or something. But he just completely dodged the question. So, this paints a different picture, right? Why is Epstein afraid of Donald Trump? Is it because he knew that he would be president one day? And if Epstein was afraid of Trump, it means Trump likely had power over him already, even back then, which suggests that Trump may have played a much bigger role in all of this, maybe even a leadership role. You guys, it wasn't out of the question for Trump to hand over responsibility for certain things. He did it with a known PDF file. Casablancas gave him control of his South American real estate empire. So, what if Eggstein was the Florida connection? Unbelievable. Now, the Republicans have lost control, or so they say. You know, all this could just be a setup to change the way they handle this, to sweep it all under the rug. This could all just be a show. It's probably likely a show. But we need to follow it through to see where all this is headed. Apparently, a slew of subpoenas went out. GOP leaders submarine by Epstein uproar. They tried to contain the fear over the list and surrender control of the wider operations of the lower chamber. A bonanza of subpoenas for Epstein-related materials. A testimony erupted in the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. House Appropriations Committee markup was postponed amid threats of Democrats forcing more Epstein-related materials. So, this is a train moving out of control. Vance is getting roasted for flip-flopping on his request to release the Epstein files. This story actually broke last week. They started talking about this, how his previous comments during, I think it was the Biden administration, had him literally saying that there was corruption in Washington because the files were not released. Now, all of a sudden, he don't care if they're released. And so, this is insane. Now, meanwhile, our local government, police, FBI, ICE, they're all working together using a tactic, a military tactic, to pick up illegals. It's called the snatch and grab jump out squads. You know, the stuff we see in the movies where a white van pulls up, the door opens, they put a bag over someone's head and race off. This is our country now, you guys. This is happening. It's only going to be a matter of time before somebody catches this on camera and it goes viral on TikTok, and we're going to see the truth about what has started to happen. Now, I get some pushback on this because people think, oh, we need to do this, Casey. Yes, we need to do this. This is not about not wanting to deport illegals. That's not what this is about. This is about our government using this as a Trojan horse to then come after the rest of us. Because once these rights begin to fall away, obviously, there are American citizens mixed up in all this, right? I mean, we can't be naive enough to believe that, oh, this is only focused on the illegals and no other Americans get wrapped up in the surveillance, the tracking, the drones, the facial recognition. There are Americans right now losing their rights behind this, and people are willing to give it up because they believe something good is being done. It's already been proven that the vast majority of the people picked up are not criminals. I mean, they're criminals because they crossed over onto our border illegally. But a reason why a lot of people justified this is because they thought that they were only going to go after the criminals first and they were going to be a priority, and then we were going to deal with the rest of this later. And that's kind of not really happening, because criminals don't work at jobs, right? And this is who ICE is raiding, these job sites. Not to say there aren't a few criminals mixed in there, but obviously something different is going on here. So that is where I stand on this. Yes, it needs to be done. It's how it's being done that is the dead giveaway. The erosion of every single human right that we as Americans enjoy is essentially getting mixed up with this whole deportation thing. So what is this all about? Let's read this. Extreme methods being used in an attempt unrealistic deportation quotas. Many Americans have watched in horror as masked ICE agents, sometimes accompanied by other federal agents and even local police, have appeared on their television screens looking for and detaining immigrants in their homes and their workplaces on the street. Sometimes small gangs of law enforcement appear in military gear and masks, resembling military police. Sometimes a mix of federal agents, local police deploy in large groups to conduct workplace raids, and a strange hodgepodge of uniforms. In other instances, they've confronted immigrants after they leave court, show up to renew their work permits, then take them away. But the law enforcement strategy that may have garnered the most shock is the jump out squad, small tactical teams of armed officers, not in uniform, who jump out of unmarked cars and grab immigrants off the street. So they're literally just driving around in these you guys, this is like the Taliban in America. Jumping out of cars. Nobody knows who the car is. I mean, it might have tinted windows, but they're not going to know. And all of a sudden, these guys jump out with all these guns and weapons. This is literally what you see in the movies. Throw you to the ground, cuff you, stick a bag over your head, take you to a black site or detention facility. Brazen midday kidnappings, they're calling this. Surprise terror, overwhelming force. Now, here's the crazy part. They've now have military surplus gear. And apparently this grenade killed 3 LA sheriff's officials. Now they're saying, their cover story in this story is they're saying, oh, these grenades, we found these in a storage unit. Okay, sure. A grenade that was taken to LA County Department facility detonated last week and killed 3 detectives, but a second grenade remains unaccounted for. Sheriff officials on the Special Enforcement Bureau arson explosives detail believe the 2 military-style grenades they seized from a Santa Monica storage unit on July 17th were inert, but one of them detonated the next day and killed the 3 men. Okay, sure. Federal investigation. So they didn't detonate the whole time they were inside the storage unit, but then they just happened to detonate. Wow. So now we already know that Trump loosened up the guidelines for taking back, military equipment, military surplus from all the wars we've been in. And those are now allowed to go to different sheriff's departments and police departments all over the United States. I don't know for a fact that these grenades came from that, but this is a suspicious story. Oh, they just randomly found grenades in a storage unit? Okay. Wow, let me check in with you guys. So what are your guys' thoughts on all this? This is insane. Now, Trump continues to deflect with this whole Epstein thing. He is trying to wiggle out of this, giving the appearance that he is. Now he's resorted to rebate checks. We're talking about rebate checks again, which is a form of universal basic income, because obviously we're the ones paying for the rebate checks, right? It's our tax dollars. They're just giving us back our tax dollars. Now, of course, I don't agree with money, our money being taken in the form of taxes to the degree that it is. Everybody wants a tax break, but we want it the right way, don't we? We don't want a bunch of checks sent out, because look what happened after the last time this happened during the CARES Act. Inflation started to soar at that point, spilled over into the Biden presidency. got worse. And this is what happened. You guys, I already saw the inflation. Now they blamed it in 2020 on a supply chain. The supply chain. But really, what was it really? Inflation was already through the roof in 2020, 2021, and before Trump left office. 2020, 2019, 2020. And I know this because this is when I started building my cabin. And everything was like triple the cost. I'm like, what's happening? It can't all be supply chain issues, right? But yet, that's what we were told. And so here now, Trump is like, he's willing to do anything he can to get our minds off of Epstein. Just release the files. Just release the files. And it is crazy. He's not even saying he's going to do it for sure. It's like he's throwing us a carrot. He may want to give you a tariff rebate check. If I were to complete the sentence, it would say, if you guys stop talking about Epstein. Unbelievable. What else we got going on? Well, there's now saying that Melania is probably the missing link when it comes to this whole Epstein story. Of course she is. Now, you can believe this Michael Wolff author guy or not believe him, but he's literally saying, and we've all heard this before, that it was Epstein who introduced Trump to Melania. Now, if we were to believe him, then she would be the missing link, wouldn't she? And maybe she is the one we need to be looking at. Wow. Crazy times, you guys. Crazy times. Now, what else do we have here? Well, tech wizards, they say that they have a contingency plan in case AI starts to take over. Let's listen to this and laugh.
Delivering a major policy speech on AI. He's also signing an executive order as part of an action plan to make America the dominant player in artificial intelligence. Our next guests are closely watching this. Their company focuses on the national security impact of this technology. And joining me
the security impact, national intelligence.
Now is Jeremy Harris, the CEO of Gladstone AI, and Ed Harris, the company.
Look at these two yahoos. I mean, are you serious? The future of the free world and artificial intelligence, put it in the hands of these two yahoos? Let's keep watching here.
Chief Technology Officer. Jeremy, let's start with you. What do you expect to hear? What do you hope to hear today from the president?
Well, a lot of it we've already heard, right? So the big action plan has launched. It's this 26-page document. There's a lot of really interesting stuff in there. And frankly, I mean, we have got a lot of friends right now at the White House.
Wait a minute. This guy looks like the UPC character? I'm sorry. I shouldn't be making fun of people, but doesn't he look just like the UPC character? Wow, let's watch this.
Part of this event. And it sounds like the energy there is pretty good, actually, quite electric.
Wait a minute. Let's go back into the chat. Let's do a poll. Is this guy... Okay, now we're going to have some fun. Is this guy the UPC character? Is that what he's called? You guys know what I'm saying, right? Or maybe it's not a UP. Is it the UPC character? I think it is. We got to pull it up now. Let me get the proper name of this guy. Wow. NPC, that's what I'm trying to say. I messed up. I started the poll. NPC. Oh my gosh. Wait a minute. Where's the picture? Come on. NPC. Come on. Let's get this right here. Okay, there. Wait a minute. We got to do it side by side. Wait, hold on. God forgive me. I'm sorry. You know, we have to have a little bit of fun, right? Let's rewind this. Wait.
There's a lot of really interesting.
God help us. I mean, is this guy even like real? Maybe he's AI. I can't do this. I can't even finish the show, you guys. I'm laughing so hard. Okay, let's figure this out here. Let's play this.
Interesting stuff in there. And frankly, I mean, we have got a lot of friends right now at the White House as part of this event. And it sounds like the energy there is pretty good, actually, quite electric. An interesting balance, like the national security imperative, right? We got to figure out our supply chains, secure them from.
Wait. Let's go back into the chat here. So they're not going to put rules on AI, but they have a contingency plan, right? In case the world ends from AI, in case all the drones, the artificial intelligence, they're already telling us that the artificial intelligence is now shutting down companies. They can't control it. And then now we got drones flying overhead. And as soon as those drones are weaponized, we're literally going to be in a Terminator situation, right? And they'll say, we couldn't do it. We couldn't figure it out. The AI took over and started bombing cities. They decided that humans were a threat. And then we got this guy, the NPC character, telling us that there's nothing to see. Everything's fine. We got control of this. Let's finish watching this
China,
here.
secure them from foreign espionage and interference.
Okay.
At the same time, we have to focus on American dynamism, right? We can't lose ourselves in the worry over the capabilities. We've got to also advance the position of our industry.
And I can tell you three things the president's going to be bringing up. He's going to be talking about exporting American AI, promoting rapid build out of data centers.
Yeah, because you guys, where are we? This is not Earth anymore. We're in the Twilight Zone. We've got a president who has now come unglued. He's openly cursing, dropping F-bombs, BS bombs. He won't release files, even though 99% of the American public wants him to release the files. And now this guy's trying to act as if Trump's got complete control over artificial intelligence.
As you mentioned, enabling innovation and adoption by removing regulation. So by removing regulation, do you worry about no guardrails?
Well, it depends what kinds of regulations you're removing. So one of the
no guardrails
aspects of the action plan that has been great has been this
talk around this guy looks like an NPC character, dude. Wait, let's zoom in on the face. I can't even deal with this right now. These are the people that run our world, you guys. Let's listen.
Regulating large data center builds. And one of the big risks that has been occurring around that in the last few years has been actually adversaries weaponizing our own free speech against us by funding legal challenges to large infrastructure builds. And recently, this is extended to data centers. Huge problem. And while it hasn't been in the action plan, it actually has been discussed at the unveiling event today that they're going to focus on trying to put a stop to that.
They say all of our energy, right now, 3% of our energy goes to AI facilities. And within 10 years, it's going to be 9%.
Wrong. It's already at 10% right now. I looked at the stats about 2 months ago, and it's 4 to 10% of these data centers of all electricity in the United States is used by data centers. You guys, that's the 10th. That's the 1/10. That's what the Bible talks about. When we asked for our first king in the Old Testament, the first time humans asked for a king, even though they were dealing directly with the Most High, and God said the king will take 1/10. So here we go, 1/10 of our energy.
What has to be built in that time?
Everything from grid infrastructure to the data centers themselves to new power plants. There's all kinds of places in our supply chain where we're bottlenecked right now. And that's a big focus of the action plan, by the way. Figuring out those bottlenecks and finding ways to deregulate where we need to deregulate, but focus on the national security imperative too. So one of the really cool things about it is we now have a bit of a sense of the official position of this administration on the hot button issue of loss of control over AI systems. A little bit of hints of that language sprinkled in this. They're focusing on how do we understand the reasoning of these AI systems. Right now, they're just like black boxes, these alien brains that we can't understand their reasoning. The administration put interesting language in there saying we want to fund, we want to back research into that. We want to have national security eyes on that from the IC, from other counterparts. So it's a really interesting play.
So I'm just going to bring you, Ed, to this poll, Fox News poll for civilians, not experts like you. Is AI a good thing? Now, 43% say yes. It was 38% 5 years ago. Bad thing. 47% now say it is, so it's underwater. 46% was a bad thing in 2020. What advice do you have for people that are worried?
Yeah, I mean, I think for one thing, the American public.
They're going to do it anyway. So, you You know, that our opinion doesn't even matter anymore. Nobody wants this.
Is actually quite dialed in. There's a huge amount of good and a huge amount of potential bad that could come out of this.
Notice how they keep saying that there's a potential bad. It's like they're setting us up for what they know is going to happen. So they have to disclose it, right? They're like, yeah, there's a lot of good, but there's a lot of bad too. I think Trump said the same exact thing.
Technology. And one of the great things that this action plan has done is, one, pushing the good as far as they can go, but at the same time having early warning signals and contingency plans in place in case things in the labor market.
You think it's in place? You think there's some things in place, or you want it in place?
No, the action plan has put some of these things in place. Yeah.
So Sam Altman comes out and tells us about AI about 5 years ago and says, look out, it could be dangerous. Elon Musk says, look out, it could be dangerous. Have we just stopped listening to them? Is it less dangerous, or are you still somewhat wary?
Well, to be clear, those conversations now have moved into a different venue. So they're happening among people who are working on the technical problem of controlling these systems. They are happening a little bit out in the open, but the level of concern, frankly, has not materially dropped. In fact, it's increased among the people we've spoken to, whistleblowers at a lot of the frontier labs and insiders who say, look, we're on track to build systems that are potentially more intelligent than us. We don't necessarily know how to control those systems.
And we don't have the luxury to sit back because the Chinese are not, and that's our competitor, like it or not.
Yeah.
We've decided to give them, let them buy H20 NVIDIA chips. They're almost the best in the business. That's what they wanted. Is that a smart move, Ed?
Well, it's a very, very challenging question.
Okay, I can't even watch these NPCs anymore. Unbelievable. All right, let's go. Okay, so 88% of you believe he looks like an NPC character. All right, we'll end that poll just because I did it wrong. My gosh. Okay. Let me try to collect myself here. Like, you know, at this point, those two people that were being interviewed could have been an AI. It couldn't have even been real. That could have been a computer generated interview at this point. I mean, who knows? All right. Well, let's get into this movie called The Assessment. Now, this just came out last year, and the movie literally fast forwards to the future. There's a heat wave that's explained that consumes most of the earth and the force and most of the crops and everything, and it forces mankind to adapt inside of these weather-controlled domes. Now, in order to do this, they have to drastically allow the population to reduce to manageable levels, and reproduction is highly regulated, and families must be approved to have a child through a process called an assessment. The assessment is where this official comes out. She has lots of power, and she basically nitpicks the family to see if they qualify to have a child. And at some point, the parents in the film, I'll show you guys the clips here, they realize, here's the father here, they realize that no families ever pass the assessment. It's all just an exercise in futility as they manage the population under this dome. Now, this husband here, he's a brilliant scientist, and he is just on the verge of developing 3D printed pets that are lifelike. And the reason why he has to print these pets out is because part of the management of humans under this dome was they basically genocided all the pets. They said the pets were carrying disease, I think is what the plot said, and they got rid of all the pets. So this guy made like 3D printed pets. How did he do it? With programmable matter, this black goo. But he's running into some programming errors, and he can't get it to be quite lifelike. But in the end, he's able to achieve it. And at one point, he uses the technology to make a baby. Wow. Now, in the end, his wife decides to go outside the dome. She's disheartened and angry that the whole assessment process was just a ruse. And she decides to go outside and take her chances. And when you go outside the dome, you can get pregnant when you go off of the drugs that they give you, and the drugs that they give you actually extend life. How long? Well, let's take a look, you guys. Hundreds of years. So people give up their ability to have kids so that they can live for a long time. It's the ultimate in vanity. Watch.
You're all too young to remember the border, aren't you?
You were alive before the border?
How old are you? I'm 153.
Now, I believe this is Minnie Driver. Now, I remember this woman growing up. She was an adult when I was like a child. So she's much older than me, but yet, look how young she looks. That's crazy. Do you guys remember Minnie Driver? I think this is her. Am I wrong? Anyway, so there's some doublespeak going on here, right? In the movie, she's 153 years old, which that number is loaded as well. That's the number of fish that were caught in the net. When Jesus told the disciples to cast the net to the right side, we did a video on that, and we decoded that miracle. Because the boats of old, the ancient boats, if you were to look at them from the air, they looked like the center of a Vesica Pisces. They look like a fish eye, not a fish eye, but I guess you'd call it an eye from the air. And so when you cast the net to the right side of the boat, it almost forms the circle of one side of the Vesica Pisces. Let me pull that up so you guys get a visual on this. Okay, Vesica Pisces. So, this is the Vesica Pisces. And there's a mathematic formula in which this center part is the number 153. Now, why is that important? Because this is exactly how many fish the disciples caught when they cast the net to the right side of the boat. And when you throw a cast net, the objective is to make it lay out perfectly like a circle when it's thrown. It's supposed to land on the water as a perfect circle. So in that miracle, Jesus was literally explaining that he knew advanced mathematics of how our reality works. This is a boat from the air. This is the net being cast to the right side. The 153 fish is the mathematical equation. Now, the wild thing about this is, what does all this mean? Well, Jesus came because at the beginning of time, the seeds were split. The seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman, the enmity between the two. And because of this, we had to have sacrifice for our sins. Jesus being the ultimate sacrifice for Jews and Gentiles, for both seedlines, if you believe in him. Of course, that is the gospel, and the rest is history. The free gift for those who believe. Believe in the Lord and you shall be saved. This was all about the bloodlines, wasn't it? From the very beginning. This is why blood had to be shed in order for Jesus to save the world. So there's a little lesson on the Vesica Pisces. Now, let's go back to this.
I'm 153. Without this noxidine, I won't last long.
Now, this is the assessor, okay? And she's the one that does the assessment. And she admits that nobody ever passes the assessment after the mother, the want-to-be mother, future mother, confronts her. She goes to her apartment. She's like, what's going on? Why? How did we not pass? We did everything you asked. And the drug that they take to extend life is called senoxidine. That's the name of the drug. Let's keep watching here.
Tuco? It's not much of life. Is it true what Holly said, that people are surviving?
So this is the mother, and she's like, I'm out of here. I'm going to go outside of the dome, take my chances so I could get pregnant.
What was it like?
You don't want to know.
You really do not want to know.
I do.
Virginia, will you say?
Now, I would not recommend this movie. It's really creepy on so many levels, as the assessor turns into a child to try to teach the parents how to, or to basically test them to see if they will pass the assessment. And so she basically turns into a child, and there's some cringy scenes in this that you don't want to see. Let's keep watching here. So this is the dome, and as you can see kind of the striations up here in the sky. And if you go outside the dome, then you're not protected. And it's this big mystery as to what it's like outside the dome. You know, they want you to believe, oh, it's going to be pure chaos. There's no law and order, blah, blah, blah. It's anarchy. Inside the dome, yes, we have a very controlled society, but that means safety and blah, 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 right? And you can live forever inside the dome as long as you follow our rules. That sounds like maybe something like this is actually going to really happen. We're talking about golden domes, and, you know, AI is going to, they're saying now, is going to be integral and pivotal in the future health of Americans. They've tied that aspect into AI as well, saying they can solve cancers and all these things. Oh, that sounds like a false messiah. That sounds like someone promising you everlasting life, when we know that the only person that can do that is Jesus Christ, right? Now let's keep watching here.
Prepare your belongings and Synoxidin.
Name, please.
Mia Gray.
Now, the crazy thing is the husband that you saw at the beginning of the decode here, he ends up staying behind because he's the one that has invented a way to create animals and humans with programmable matter. So what does he do? He's like, I don't need her. I'll just 3D print my own wife and kid. What a sketch movie, you guys. This is his wife right here, his new 3D printed wife. Just cruising around. There's images of his daughter. He's like, I don't need her. This is crazy, you guys. Did you see the gold coming off of her? Let's zoom in on that. The Golden Dome. Now, this just came out this year, but okay. There's going to be something about the gold, right? I think this is all going to happen. So this movie is called The Assessment, in case you're interested. And let me go back into the chat. Did you guys see this movie? It's a very disturbing movie. Started out a little bit slow. I should have definitely captured the programmable matter stuff for you guys because it was pretty interesting, but I don't want to spend too much time on the film. All right, I'm back in the chat, you guys. What a trip. The NPC character, that was hilarious. I mean, it kind of wasn't though, but it was. Good morning. Yeah. She looks like Pigpen from Peanuts with a cloud of dirt. Yeah, it's be prepared, Christy. I mean, it's got a lot of good aspects to it, but there's basically they show PDF file Ilya in the movie, and it's just disturbing. And they couch it in the form of an adult pretending to be a child, but it actually happens. So, yeah, the baby had no smell. Meg saw it. Yeah, like basically, the husband 3D prints a baby for the mom, and she holds the baby, and but then she's like, it has no smell, and she just drops it on the ground like a doll. Dome is an anagram for Edom. Wow, good one, Boomer Bear. All right. I don't want to end up in Gator Gitbo for non-compliance. You know, that's a reasonable concern. Now, with the way everything's headed, Trump's now saying he's going to go after Oprah Winfrey. And who else did he say? Let's look up that story so we can laugh. He's literally coming unglued. Let's see if it comes up in the headlines here. Oh, yeah. He says he's going to go after Kamala Harris, Beyonce. Why all black women? Right? This is all to trigger race stuff. You know, in this whole Hulk Hogan thing, there's more to the story with Hulk Hogan, right? Because Hulk Hogan got caught red-handed saying some very cruel things about black people, dropping the N-word because his daughter was dating a black man. Now, listen, I'll be the first to tell you, you come to this channel, you know that, hey, if you're a white person and you believe races shouldn't mix, I don't have a problem with that. That's your right. Same way it's right for black people to say, you know, I don't feel as though it's okay for black people to mix with white people, because black people say that all the time. Now, I don't share those feelings, but I feel like that's okay to say or feel like that. What's not okay is all the words that came after that Hulk Hogan said about black people. If you just don't think it's okay to mix with other races, okay, fine. There's cultural limitations. There are some pretty good arguments to be made for that, for people that believe that way. But it was the N-bombs dropping and the generalizations. That's where you get into racist aspects. Now, I don't even consider Hulk Hogan a racist because that's his right to feel that way, even if he said those negative things. But now he's got to live with that legacy because people are like, wow, it's kind of ignorant that you would say that about a group of people in general. So now it's him. His legacy is what suffered from it, and his family. He smeared his entire family. I believe true racism is holding other people back who are of color because of their color. And obviously, Hulk Hogan wrestled with a lot of black people and helped them become famous when he was a wrestler. So that would not qualify him as a racist in the true sense of what the word should be defined as, right? That's just my opinion about all that. What was it? Junkyard Dog and all that. There were a lot of black wrestlers in the WWF era. Now, if the WWF was all white people and Hulk Hogan was leading it and they kept black people out of the WWF, then I would say racism. But that didn't happen. Now, what are you guys' thoughts on that? We need to redefine all this but here's what's weird. Why did Trump name 3 black people that he's going to go after? 3 black women. That's a little bit weird. It's like he's trying to push people's buttons. He's trying to get people focused back on this right-left paradigm thing, back on this racism thing. Kamala, Oprah, and Beyonce. Wow. Unglued. Now, I don't like any of those 3 women, but this is a little bit weird, isn't it? So what are you guys' thoughts on that? Is Trump race baiting with this new announcement? What are your thoughts on, races that mix? And do you think that that is racism or not? Do you share my sentiments? I'm just curious. So, Trump pardoned Kodak Black. Yes, he did. Invited Kanye West to the White House. But remember, we talked about all that. Remember, I told you that sometimes people will showcase dysfunction, and that's essentially a double-edged sword. They'll showcase dysfunction. Why those black men? Why Lil Wayne, Kodak Black, who was just shown eating chicken in the middle of the street, high as a kite, basically turned insane. Kanye West, who turned insane. Lil Wayne, who is basically like, oh, is that what you want your son to look like with face tattoos and dreadlocks? Like, that person will never be able to get a job again. Like, why showcase those black men when you could showcase other black men who are successful? Showcase a black plumber or a black electrician or a black lawyer, right? Or heck, I'd even settle for a black NBA star or something. So sometimes you can be sending a double message when you do that. Why give them the floor? Why give them a voice? They were already imploding. And it gives people a picture in their mind of what they think most black men are like, which is completely untrue. So, all right. So those are my thoughts on that. Okay. Crazy, right? All right, you guys. Well, I guess we'll pop off here. Thanks for showing up today. Oh, thanks for laughing. I needed that. uh, what I think was a UPC character, NPC. I get a little confused sometimes. Yeah, most of us are mixed race now. Most people are. Tower of Babel. Yes, we got sent to God, divided everyone, sent us to different parts of the earth. And 90% of us are mutts. You'll hear more about the bloodlines and the two seeds, says Meatball. Yeah, so gosh, that's a lot of information. I got a lot of videos on it. The two bloodlines, the enmity, the very first prophecy in the Bible. I shall put enmity between the seed of the serpent and seed of the woman, the bruising of the heel, the bruising of the head. And that happened right after what I believe was a reproductive sin. This is when God spoke those words. And with that came birth pangs, a reproductive side effect, and likely a change in physiology. In other words, the makeup of our bodies. Now, we were created from dust, but dust can come in many forms. I believe the density of our flesh, which is much like the animals, was not always the case. I believe this happened after the fall of man that involved a reproductive sin. Somehow, the original form that God created us in was changed. Adam's physiology changed as well, because part of his punishment was to toil in the fields by the sweat of his brow. In other words, before that, he did not sweat. So, something changed. Now, we all know this deep down inside, but very few people have come to terms with it because of what they're taught in church. Church does not delve into this. Why are we built almost exactly like animals? Would God create us to be almost exactly like animals? No. We would have a different body, wouldn't we? We would have a different physiology. The animals are the key to understanding all this. And when you go back to the garden, you look at everything that happened, and that the entire Bible is about the spilling of blood. It's about genetics. It's about seed lines, bloodlines, and you track it all the way from the beginning through all the eras of the word. You begin to realize that it's all about the blood, the enmity between the two seeds, even all the way to Jesus' time. He called the Pharisees of their father the devil, the serpent. These are the people that rule this world and oppress God's people. So there's a little bit on kind of the seed lines and stuff. I don't claim to know exactly what happened in the Bible in the beginning, but there's a picture emerges. The entire Bible, the foundation of it is the battle between the seed lines. Like someone needs to make a movie on this. All the bloodlines, you could literally track it. Like if I were to make a movie on this, I would show the bloodlines. I would put a red line on one side and a blue line on the other, and I would track through all the biblical stories, all the prophets, the bloodline of Jesus, and I would show on the other side the blue bloodline, Cain, the Canaanites, Ham, the Egyptians, Mizraim, the Pharaoh. They always oppressed God's people, even when God's people escaped from the Pharaoh. It was all of the Cain bloodlines that went after them. The Canaanites, and they were giants, as were the Egyptians, the pharaohs. And they survived all the way down. They were also the ruling class in Jesus' time. He called them out of their father, the devil. So he says they rule this world. And he showed the way out, belief in him. So that was a good question. And that's just the Cliff Notes version of all of it. There's proof, copious amounts of proof, you guys. Yes, the Nephilim Basketball Association, the NBA, and the NFL, the Nephilim, NFL. Yeah, it's all play on words. They know. They probably have DNA tests before they let you into the NBA and the NFL, right? All right. What other leagues are there with big, tall players? All right, you guys. Well, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Much love. Thanks for showing up. Take care.